Yeah, sure. So before joining Assurance, as you mentioned, I was helping to lead a heart health wearables company called Qantas. And that startup is an example of one that didn't succeed. We ended up closing down the startup and calling it a day. No big acquisition, no exciting exit, which happens a lot. And it was tough. It was hard to be part of that and see that we weren't able to make it succeed. And at that time, one of the venture capitalists who was working with Qantas, who I respected a great deal, gave me some advice and said, Allison, just wait a few months and try to find the next best opportunity, but don't rush into anything. And of course, I took the opposite advice. I decided to do 1,000 things. So I started consulting for a VC firm. I started consulting for a bunch of different companies in addition to continuing to teach at Stamford. And one of those companies was Assurance. And a few months into that, I decided to stop all other consulting and just join Assurance. And that was a big risk for me because Assurance was a completely different industry. I had never worked in the insurance industry before. I had mostly done healthcare. And it was a unknown company. It was not even located where I was located. It was up in Seattle. It had no press and no knowledge, no VC funding at all, which is a common measure of success for startups. But I really believed in the people and the team and how they were approaching the problems. And what I had learned, if anything, from my past experience was the people really matter and the team that you're working with really matters. And so that's why I jumped in and said, let's give this Assurance thing a shot.
Okay, so that was bold. Here you have some of your best advisors telling you, just wait. And you jump into consulting, lots of consulting practices going, and presumably could have built an entire career around consulting. At least that's what it looks like you were on the track to do. And you threw it all in for one company. Wow.
Yeah. It was a little bit scary in that it was becoming a consultant was something I was thinking about doing, just starting my own consultant firm. I had a textbook. I was a lecturer. I could focus on doing that. But, as a consultant, you both get to influence everything and really be part of nothing to some extent. And so I wanted to get back on the ground and be part of truly building this company.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. All right. So how nervous were you? You've made the commitment, you're going to Assurance. Do you have any moments of doubt in the early days?
I didn't. And part of that was because I had this really nice safety blanket called Stamford. And so being a lecturer and having that part-time job gave me a bit of security to say, worst case scenario, if this startup fails, just like my previous startup did, I'm still going to land on my feet because I have this safety blanket of Stamford. But beyond that, I had experienced what happened when a startup failed. And while it was painful, and while it wasn't a fun experience necessarily, it wasn't the end of the world. And so through that experience, I got to tell myself, you know what? The worst thing that happens is that the startup doesn't succeed, and that's not so bad.